Welcome back to 90 Seconds Plus, and we're back with the Mayor himself, Nobby Clark. So Nobby, let's kick straight into it. Rates. We haven't spoken to you because it's been a few weeks.
Sure.
So obviously we've moved the rates now. We got sort of in the middle or somewhere in between, I guess. I guess that's a positive. Still think there's some fat that could have been cut, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, you know my view on that.
Yeah.
I held out for 3.9, and this wasn't me grandstanding because I'm not standing again.
Yep.
But I just thought that's the upper level of the local government inflation rate or index rate. And I don't like what I see around the use of consultants or contractors or lawyers.
Yep.
We spend about $4 million a year, and that was too high. So I was pushing for roughly 4%. The staff wanted about 9.5%, but with some of the cuts that we didn't want to make, probably 10.5%. So I did a lot of work around publicising that issue. I did it with you and did it with other sources of media, spoke to groups like Age Concern and others, but I got very few people submitted. And so unfortunately I just didn't have the will of the community. I know what it is. They don't want rates to compound up by 10%, so I had to let go of something. So the trade for me was that we didn't make any cuts to Great South or to the stadium. The stadium was really important, and that we've not continued to have walk-in place toilets. And so given that we've made those decisions, I had to try and find some middle ground. So we end up with 7.1, I think, which is not as where I would have liked it to be. I would have liked being 4 to 5 in that range, but just couldn't get there.
So that's done and dusted really. So the other topic, I guess it's been a bit of a controversial, bit of on and off with the councillors and everything else, is the Coopers Creek.
Sure.
So we've sort of we're back on that next week, is it?
No, we had a meeting the other day to accept the Sandy Point Management Plan, and there are still some unease in here for the licensee holders at Coopers Creek. So I've given an undertaking that by June's council meeting, which is towards the end of June, I'll put a notice of motion up which will revocate, which means that it changes the original decision we made in September last year, which was basically to allow the current people to stay 21 years plus 7 plus 7. So 35 all up, but that was the end of it after 35 years. I've gone back to my notes and realised that at that meeting, Jeff Smith, one of the presenters, asked me about could they have further time beyond the 35 years. And I said, well, look, I can't speak for future councils, can't speak for what the Minister of Conservation may or may not want on reserved land. But we made a clear statement, we are not going to freehold the land for two reasons. One, you just physically couldn't do it so close to the water. And two, the Minister wouldn't agree to it. Iwi wouldn't agree to it. And finally, most of the licence holders out there at the moment are not in a position to buy the land if it's freehold. Some would, but most would not. So we thought 35 years was generous. But having said that, my notice of motion will reword that to say that during the term of 35 years, nothing prevents a licence holder from seeking a further term. Now, seeking is a very important word. That's what Jeff put up there, one of the licence holders. Because seeking means you just ask. It doesn't mean the council will have to agree to it. People say, well, that's a bit rough, then you hold all the power. Well, we do now. At the moment, technically, they have annual licences. And at any one stage, we could say goodbye. Now, we don't want to do that. Well, I personally don't want to do that. Not because I'm looking for ratepayer support or anything like that. Look, they've been there for the best part of 70 years. The village has been. It's done no harm at all. In fact, it's done a lot of good. When we used to have the residential ranger out at Sandy Point, those people were, the licensee holders, were very good ears and eyes of what was happening. And since that residential ranger's gone, a lot of damage on Sandy Point, people hooning cars and lighting small fires, and like we've got forestry blocks out there. And having a community that lives out there that goes backwards and forwards up the road is a good set of stuff. They see the marks on the roads, they see the cars. And so, I think we need to rethink that through. Now, legally speaking, if you make a decision, you can't revocate it or change it for 6 months, because otherwise every meeting you chop and change. But we passed that, and I think my feel of the council table the other day was, I think a majority of councils would be open to allowing to seek a further period, and I think that would give the licence holders some certainty. Because if you're out there at the moment, for argument's sake, and you need to go into aged care and you're 20 years down the track from today, what do you do with your licence if there's only 15 years left on it?
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
10 years, or 5 years? Who's going to buy your house knowing that 5 years from now they're going to be gone?
That's right.
So I think there's got to be some common sense there,
Yeah.
and they've done no harm and done a lot of good.
Yeah.
So I just think, while it's been quite a drawn out, sometimes painful experience, I think we'll get some common ground.
Yep. And another thing, obviously we're back into the election season. We're about to kick it off again.
Yep.
There's the an evening next week, 11th of June, where candidates can go along and find out information from the council staff. Will be there to give them information on what's expected and required of you.
Yep.
Working on council and as a councillor and everything else, so that should be good. So I guess the more we get people notice out there to come and have a look and hear what they have to say.
I went to one 2 terms ago,
Yep.
and it also had some councillors there, so it was helpful to talk to them. But people shouldn't necessarily be put off by what they heard. I mean, what I heard at the time was you can't do a full-time job and be a councillor as well. Well, that's not true.
Yep.
We've got a number of councillors who are working full-time and also contribute to that. It is a service.
Yes. That's the thing. It's not a career. It's not a lifestyle either. But I think there's been too many in the past who've ended up treating it like that.
Correct.
Hanging on for too long when they needed to go some time ago. Some of them.
A councillor position pays, from the selection onwards, pays about 50 grand
Yeah.
before tax. A chair's probably $10,000 more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is reasonable income for what you expected. I mean, I would think a councillor, not a chair, because they have to do a whole lot more work, but a councillor would probably spend 10 to 12 hours a week.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a full-time job, you've got to be thinking, where do I put in those 10 hours? Some people do it over the weekends before meetings.
Yeah.
Other people engage during the day. It's got to be a bit of a passion, because
Yeah.
if you don't have that, then
It's a commitment, really.
it can
is.
be hard work.
Yeah. It's like a commitment having a pet. You can't just turn it on and turn it off. With the
Correct.
suits, really. You're
Yeah.
committed for 3 years.
So it'd be good if people come along.
Yeah.
They don't have to come along, they can still
Yeah.
apply.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's helpful to know what the officials are of being a councillor and
Yeah.
what time commitments they're being.
Because there'll be some councillors there as well, but to give them some tips and some
Yep.
some experiences of what it's been like for them, I guess, which makes sense. So
Yeah.
some great things happening, Nobby, with What in a Place. It's starting to take shape. The new bus track, the pavers are going down. The clock must be coming back very shortly to get installed.
Yep.
And the hotel, I think they're taking bookings from the 1st of October. So it's all pretty exciting stuff. It is. Yeah.
Yeah, there's further development going on in the tourism space as well,
Yeah.
which I can't declare yet. Somebody else needs to do that, but we've got some more tourism coming to our city,
Yeah.
and I think that will be important for Bluff, because if I was a tourist coming in here, that's the primary place I'd
Yeah.
want to go to. Not necessarily just to go to Stewart Island. I think there's a lot of good things in Bluff that we should be
Totally.
singing from the rooftops about.
Yep.
Aquaculture, mountain biking on the hill,
Yes.
the sign that everybody gets their photograph with.
Yep.
But there's lots of options down here.
Totally.
It really does. It needs to be a mecca for tourism.
Well, that's 90 Seconds Plus with Invercargill City Mayor Nobby Clark. Until next week, see you later.